Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another raid video. The summoning news announcement is finally here, meaning we know what champions are going to be up for the progressive 15x, 20, 25x that's starting tomorrow and on Wednesday. But also we have a brand new Prism Crystal summoning pool event with the new faction unity champion available, which is this one, Faina, the Blade of Arabia. I haven't tested her much on the test server, to be honest, but I found her kit just to be relatively okay. And once you get her, with additional faction allies from the same faction, she becomes a lot more interesting. But still, I think the previous one we had was way better. So her, I do expect we're gonna have multiple different summoning events for, and in the future for sure multiple other summoning events for the other faction unity champions. For this one, by the way, if you do manage to get any of these, the Prism crystals, keep them up until Friday to do your summons, because on Friday it's when the summoning tournament starts and you can get points through the summoning portal just by summoning your Prism crystals that you might acquire through different events. There's one going on right now for Sand Devil, and there's probably going to be additional one on through the next Dungeon Divers that is coming. So have that in mind. The other three legendaries here offered are okay, but nothing too crazy. The epics are relatively good, and like for me, as an example, I am looking for an Eleusinia, but the chances of getting her is just very low, even her. So I don't think I'll be spending unless like a really good offer pops up to go alongside with the anniversary. So let's get started with the 15x going on for Tuesday. This is a big one, guys, because it does include a big epic that we can use for the clan boss. And if you guys don't have him yet, this will be the time for you. So the first is this one with Corvus the Corruptor, Artag, Mishinagi, Tuhanarak, and Nekrit for the Voids. Tuhanarak, Nekrit for the Voids. Mishinagi, Artag are amazing HP Baron champions, plus additional utility through their skills. Just fantastic 15x if I'm being honest here. But again, the odds of getting even the one of the three 15x champions is really low. You choose which one you want, and then that odd goes up and up. But still, for me personally, if I would prefer one of the three here, would be Mishinagi, and then one of the two here would probably be Tuhanarak for PvE and Nekrit for PvP. And then look at the epics that are available: Old Gruckus, Elijah, Vogoth, Maneater, and Skimfus the Consume. Maneater is the big one for this banner. Maneater is just the champion that makes the clan boss teams. I mean, if you don't have Maneater yet, this is the time for you guys to summon. If I'm being honest, the epics are way easier to get comparing them to the legendaries. It all depends on the number of voids that you have. And of course, if it means you're going to lose out on the fusion, please consider not summoning and keeping your summons for the Champion Chase tournament that comes up for this weekend. Okay, just remember that. But if you don't care about that, you don't care about the fusion, and you still want to go for it, I mean, you can see that lots of the clan boss teams are using Maneaters. And I am using Maneater as well in my own team. So having even just one is going to allow you to make your teams for the clan boss and beat Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare difficulties. If you have two of them, even better. With the Painkeeper, it makes for an easy team called the Bat Eater team. So this is the excuse to open up your voids. Again, if you have one Maneater already, maybe it's not exactly needed, because the double Maneater can work, but it does require some setup. The single Maneater still does its job. The double Maneater still requires other champions to work if you want to make it auto friendly. So have that in mind before you go crazy. Look for a little bit of the teams that you can do with any other void champions that you might have, or any other champions you might have for the clan boss. Have that in mind. So let's go and have a look at the second 15x, which will be starting on Wednesday. This will be going on at the same time for the CBC, all right? And look at this. Ragash, Herndig, Dracomorph. Ragash is very nice in PvE and PvP. Herndig, again, can be used for PvP. And then Dracomorph, amazing for PvE, clan boss specifically. You have Riho, which is so good for specific setups in PvE and can still be used for PvP, especially because of her cleanse ability that she has. And then Acresia is just an amazing champion for PvE, just wrecks through with her enemy max HP skills. Then we got Stagnite, Anax, Zargala, Madame Series Oboro offered through the epics. being Stagnite the top one of the list, I would say, comparing it to all the others in terms of the epics. Zargala is great, but has been overshadowed by many other epics. Anax is good as well, but again, it really depends on what kind of setup you're going to run with him for damage on the clan boss, right? Madame Series is more PvP friendly, and then overall can be used in some setups for the Hydra. So if we have a look a little bit at some of the champions that are offered right now, I think I would suggest going over them and having a look and seeing on how you can put them into use if you have them already. Let's say Mishinagi. It's an amazing champion. I use him on my Hydra team, my Hydra Nightmare team. He has a Hex, double hitting attack that also removes buffs. Comes in very handy on specific setups. When you're running the Nightmare difficulty, you want to be removing those buffs. Those buffs can make it very difficult for you to survive, especially the increased attack buff and the block debuffs buff as well. Can be very annoying if he's spread around on the enemy Hydra heads. So he becomes very useful. HP burn debuff that he applies constantly through his passive, which he attacks, joining in to an ally's attack if there's a Hex already on one of the heads. And then he can also place decreased defense and decreased attack if there's a Hex already on the target. So an amazing champion. Highly recommend using him. And if you do manage to summon him this Tuesday or Wednesday, don't regret maxing him out, right? So our attack specifically can be great if you don't have something already for the Ice Golem. I do use my own Artak for the Ice Golem, but it's very difficult to build an Artak to solo the Ice Golem for Ice Golem Hard I'm talking about. The stats needed are very, very high. He's a very good champion, can be used in Spider and Ice Golem, but I would say he's very difficult to build if you're just looking for something to help you for the Ice Golem. You're looking at very high stats, and if I can show you mine with a 5-star blessing as well, like 112,000 health, which is insane, 4.4 thousand defense, 250 speed, 480 resistance, 320 accuracy. We're talking really high stats needed. Maxed out Great Hall bonuses. You need some area bonuses as well for the Ice Golem, and you need to have stuff like protection set and the region set to make it on top of that, plus also ascending your gear for extra stats. So have that in mind before you go for this guy and getting him and expecting him to solo the boss, all right, without the gear needed. And that's for the first banner, which also has Corvus. Me especially, I don't think Corvus is that amazing. He's good, but not that amazing. I think he is Sacred Order, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I do have Corvus, but I haven't used him much. Decrease attack on the A1, A2, double hitting. First hit, increase the duration of all enemy debuffs. The second hit, increase the duration of all allied buffs. That's good. And then the A3 attacks all enemies 2 times, placing a poison, and then poison sensitivity. That's good, but I think if he had an activator for poisons included in his A2, it would have been much better for him in terms of usage compared to, let's say, the other 2 champions available right now on the banner. And then, of course, the epics I covered. If we have a look at the Wednesdays legendaries like Ragash, Herndig, and Dracomorph, I think Dracomorph does not need an introduction, but let's say you live under a rock, right? Dracomorph can be very good for this 4-hitting poison debuff skill with a 3-turn duration, 3-turn cooldown. When you max it out, he can do damage depending on the number of debuffs on the boss. So the more debuffs, the more damage he's doing. And he can apply a weaken and decrease defense debuff. He is one of the OGs in terms of weaken and decrease debuffs being available through a single champion as an AoE debuff to apply that. All right, so since then we have many more champions. So if you have something like a Lydia already, then you obviously know that Dracomorph does the same thing, but Lydia does it better. All right, although I would say Dracomorph is unlikely to be used in that specific role, so have that in mind. He's mostly used as a clan boss DPS champion. And then if we have a look at Ragash and Herndig, I'm going to go over Herndig and then finally Ragash, which is the one I would love to get out of this 15x, but I will not be summoning because I'm saving everything for the hero's path. And also yeah, let's go over Herndig first. He is the dwarf. Let's go right here. I do have Herndig. I have multiple copies of Herndig actually. He can solo farm Nightmare campaign if you need something like that. He can be very useful for the Dark Fae rotation, where you build him up specifically to kill your team with this skill right here, the Lethal Lust skill. He gains an extra turn every time, so he runs around and kills your own team with this, the copies that the boss produces. And then what he does is he uses Stasis Strike and Arcane Tempest to make things better for you, like decrease defense here, and then this one depletes Terminator as well. Can be very useful for the Dark Fae encounter, and he can also be used in other areas like farming Minotaur fast. If you're looking for some champion that does that, he can be used for all of the potion keeps as well to farm them very quickly. He does very good amount of damage, and he has a very interesting passive as well. And then finally, Ragash. Ragash is the one that I really want. Is one I skipped in the past. He was a guaranteed. I skipped it and I kind of regret it right now, but increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. It's a single target attack, pretty cool, but this is where he is very nice. Attacks all enemies. Before that, he places a decreased defense debuff, and then also has a chance to stun enemies after that. He has a high multiplier, meaning he can do some solid damage, and he's defensive based, meaning he does more damage being tankier. So that's what you're looking for, especially in live arena where things get interesting, right? Strengthened buff, increased speed buff on all allies can be placed by this guy. Very useful buffs. And then a perfect veil on this champion protecting him, and also he places a perfect veil as well on your ally with the highest attack. It doesn't necessarily have to be an attack based damage dealer, but maybe you can fit your team so that one of your supports has higher attack than everybody else, so that they receive a perfect veil and get protected at the start of Ragash's turn. So gets very interesting on the setups that you can do with this guy. That's why he's so good and so actively used in both well, no, I'm not gonna say classic arena, but live arena, more so because of the fact that in live arena you can actually ban selected picks from the enemies, and also when you select a champion they can't select it. So there's more usage of different champions rather than in classic arena where you see pretty much the same setups over and over. So this is the 15x, guys. 15x, 20, 25x. Remember, the odds remain the same, so don't think that it's going to be much easier to get a legendary, especially if you summon during the 1+1 on the last weekend, and then summoned also on the 1+1 on Sacreds. You're pretty much hit Pity already. You hit Mercy. I hope you got Duchess. That was the MVP of that banner. But this time around, it's a little bit different. There's no boosted rates. It's just the 15x. There's no 1+1. You're just hoping to get something while the CBC is also active. I think nobody should summon, honestly. If I want to close out the video with this one, you should just keep all your shards. The Heroes Path is coming. The Champion Chase Tournament is coming. Especially the Heroes Path. I think there's going to be a guaranteed champion in it. And the only way to get points is through summons of shards and summons of your soul stones, all right, which we all don't have that many, especially after the booster rates were done last week, right? So this was the video, guys. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.